Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Declarable Podcast, episode number 1. Ooh. For everyone who thought that this is going to be up on Saturday night, I apologize. We had some technical difficulties, and I just got busy with doing things, and so it's actually going to go up Monday afternoon. And I don't know why I just told you when it's going to go up, because it's already up, because you're listening to it. Okay. Our guest today is Mr. Kevin Gisi of youtube.com/gisikw, a good friend of mine and a spectacular person and just an awesome guy to talk to, a very intelligent, sharp guy, and I really think you guys are going to enjoy this episode.
So much for pretending. Are we just going in flat hours? Oh, we're not watching. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to time it, basically.
Gotcha.
Figure out where we're at.
It's audio equipment.
What?
Awesome.
So hello, Kevin.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing quite well. How are you guys?
Mostly good.
Fantastic.
Technical difficulties, man. They kill me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'd like to start with some of the very hilarious questions that we got from you, or for you, I should say.
Well, it would make sense that he has questions for himself that we would be fit to answer.
It's, well, you know.
Yeah, actually, I figured I'd come in with all my problems, and if you guys could help me out, that'd be great.
Well, welcome to group therapy.
Thank you.
So the number one question that I got, when are you going to make another video?
Really? I didn't actually, because I looked at the Twitter responses. I didn't see that one. That's a good question. I don't necessarily know. I'm kind of enjoying not having the responsibility of making them. That's not entirely true. I've got a script written for something that's a bit more long form, and it's in progress, and it requires some footage from some other people that I'm waiting on, and then I'll be recording and working on that. But eventually, I'm not gone.
So is that what you're kind of trying to aim for, is making longer pieces for your channel? Or
well, the thing is that with YouTube channels, it's a little bit difficult because there are the people who put out very, very regular content, and then there are the people who put out relatively infrequent stuff that's more high production value. And the thing that I've noticed about the people who put out very, very regular content is that there's a problem with eventually you get bored because it's such a personality-based type of thing.
Right.
And so the more I'm thinking about it, it's like part of it is that I'd like to make stuff that's a bit more complex, but part of it is also I'd like to be in a position where people are excited to see that I've made something, as opposed to, oh, it's his Monday one. Maybe I'll watch it, if I got the time.
Sure. Well, at this point, I imagine that people would be jumping all over a new video. Well, you've made videos for all sorts of other channels. We've got our collab channel, and you made a couple book reviews. So you're still making videos. They just haven't been on the main channel.
Right. And that's, all of my off channels are really like, I don't care. It's more like I read a book, ergo, let's try and make 3 cents off of having done that.
So another question that we got, what are your favorite video games from 2013? Or it says favorite video games of 2013.
Yeah, I don't.
I guess that insinuates the ones that came out in 2013, but maybe
I would guess. Can someone narrow down what video games came out in 2013? I don't know. Oh, what was that one that DK, you were live streaming for a while? The 2D Minecraft one.
Starbound or Terraria?
Yeah, Starbound. I think based on the fact that I think it's the only 2013 game that I've played, that probably has to be the one. I've been pretty ridiculously obsessed with Kerbal Space Program, though.
Kerbal Space Program is so fun.
It's taking over my life.
Like, if I had that game when I was a kid, I probably would have gone into aeronautical engineering.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
No, seriously.
I don't know.
I wouldn't have just taken up space like I do now.
It's a fascinating game for me because I suffered from a World of Warcraft addiction a while ago, but I never fathomed that someone could get to that obsessive state with any other style of game. There's a thing about MMOs where it's just they're so good at just feeding you enough carrots and hitting you with enough sticks that you can become completely entrenched in it at the cost of the rest of your life. But I didn't think that was possible with any other style of video games. So I'm really kind of impressed that they managed to do that with a relatively simple premise for a game.
It's very simple. I mean, it's the physics engine is so robust in that game that it's just very fun. And it's still technically a beta, right? Like, it's not even an official, like,
I don't think it's even a beta. I'm pretty sure it's an alpha.
Yeah, man, that's insane. If you guys,
but it's been an alpha for something like 3 years.
I know Paul has watched me play it.
Yeah, I've watched it a couple times.
It's basically a NASA sim, effectively.
Okay.
Yep.
And
which part of NASA, in the shuttle or mission control?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, there's effectively two elements. There's the construction of whatever thing, because it's not just rockets. They also have space planes, actually.
Okay.
And then there's the actual flying and launching and trying to get to different planets, and it's amazing. It's unbelievably fun. It also takes up so much time. Turns out it takes a long time to go to, like, I don't know, the moon.
So we're doing China's research and development for them through this game?
I mean, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just a very well-built game. And there's so many mods for the game now that like people have added to it. Like the game... And you know what's interesting? And I'm going to ask you this as like a developer too. Like, I know you haven't really done games at all, but like at a certain point... when someone makes a mod that's just so like perfect for the game, do they just like ask the dude if they can use that code, or how does?
Oh yeah, they have. Well, a lot of games, a lot of mods will be released with an open source license, which basically means that the game developers could just ingest it, and as long as they credit the dude, they don't need to actually get permission. And I know with KSP, they've not only implemented some of the mods, but they've actually hired the mod developers.
Oh,
so that's
cool.
If you want to get into the business, that's the way to go about doing it.
That's super clever, actually.
Yeah,
it's the best resume you can ever have. Is just look what I can do for your company, literally.
So here's probably my favorite question, Kevin.
Yes.
How did you get so cute?
I saw that one and I disagree with the premise. No, I honestly don't know how to answer that one. Good lighting, lots of color correction, spending a lot of time in post.
You're giving away trade secrets.
I know.
And just a side question kind of related to that, are you sponsored by any shampoo or conditioning company?
No. Actually, that's the one weird thing. I really do not like using conditioner. and all, everybody with long hair swears by using conditioner all the time. It's just, I don't know. Not really my thing.
A good half of the comments and questions for you have been about your hair.
I know. See, here's the thing about the hair, and I made a video about this a long time ago, and I have this perpetual concern that because I've talked about something once, I now can never ever talk about it again, but I'm going to repeat myself. Back when I was living in Wisconsin, actually, I was doing a lot of community theater productions, and what I discovered is that a lot of times I would want to have a particular hairstyle for a role, or they would want me to have a particular hairstyle for a role. And, occasionally my hair would just be too short to get it out to where I would want it to be for that character. And so I basically just decided I'm never going to cut my hair unless it's for a show. And I haven't been in a show for a long time. So that's pretty much where it's at the moment.
Well, because the original was 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, right? That sort of...
Yes. It started with that, and then it went to Sweeney Todd, which was awful.
What role were you in Sweeney Todd?
The Beetle.
Oh, sure. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I had bald in the middle, long in the rest of it. And then of course you have to shave all that off because there's not really coming back.
Yeah,
from that.
right.
Well, you could always do a Billy Ray Cyrus kind of thing.
Well, yeah.
You should never have a power mullet.
Why? Why not?
Not enough time to describe the reasons.
Okay.
Just generally.
Yeah.
You can't be. It's either business or party.
No, I think that people have a certain impression of you immediately when you have something like that.
Gotcha. And
I think that you discount, I think that you people will discount you immediately in some cases. Or like if you're a surgeon in Texas, you know, like
Well, you don't want to get the hair like in your thing, but you still want to keep it stylish and long and luxurious in the back.
no, but
it's
like
the ideal hairstyle, really.
I hate to break it to you. You have a staph infection because I just can't be bothered to cut my hair.
I agree with that, though, and there are certainly times where I think even just having long hair like this is problematic.
I don't think problematic. I mean, regardless of what you look like, people are going to make judgments on what you look like. Like that's how human interaction works.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, is that just something that you roll over and accept, or do you make conscious choices to try and make sure that your appearance reflects what you want?
It depends on your personality. I mean, and what you do. I mean, like as an actor, like I have to maintain things, and like the fact that, say, my hair might be thinning a little. Shut up.
Might unconfirmed rumors suggest
it drives me bonkers because I mean,
is it forcing you to pull your hair out?
Yeah, you're very funny.
But hair is one of those things that you can't really, like, tattoos you can hide, piercings you can hide pretty easily. But hair is one of those things that even people who just casually know you notice almost immediately if you do something drastic. Like if he came in with, just if he braided it, or if you cut it off halfway.
Cool asymmetrical thing going on.
Yeah, or blew it out like Brian Brushwood style. Like it would, it's an immediate thing that people have, and they can see it right away.
That is something that's quite interesting, in that there are particular attributes and characteristics that just do completely stand out like that. Like people who always wear glasses, you see them without, and it's not just, oh, you made a slight tweak, but that looks like an entirely different person. Yeah,
but it's one of those like body mods that people do when they're looking for a change, or they're trying to do something to shake up life or whatever. They go out and they get something and do something like that. And it's interesting how the world immediately changes how it views you for a short period of time. You don't become a new person necessarily, but you can sort of start over for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then nobody gives a crap again.
Pretty much. Yeah, because I did that a lot with, because I went through a hair coloring phase from about tail end of middle school through maybe sophomore year in college, and I never went really crazy like my older brother had, but I went either like platinum surfer
you definitely
blonde,
surfer blonde for a while,
and I pulled that off fairly well.
That's awesome. There's a photograph of your family where all of you have blonde hair in that picture, and none of you are blonde.
Okay, to be fair, out of that picture, I was the only one who was born blonde. Otherwise, yes, that picture does represent 4 non-blondes.
Oh God,
what's going on?
So Kevin, what was the first thing that made you even want to start the YouTube channel? I don't think I know this.
Well, actually, it was after I moved to New York a little over 2 years ago now, maybe. Yeah, just over 2 years ago. And I had a friend back from Wisconsin that I had been very good friends with, and I moved here, and the job that I had, I was not enjoying, and I missed my friend, and so we started a collab channel that didn't really work because neither of us knew what we were doing, and we had completely different styles, and so the people that would subscribe would only care for one of us or the other, and it was a whole mess. And so then we decided to split onto our own channels and stuff.
Is the person that you were doing it with still doing stuff, or?
Very, very, very rarely. I think there, maybe 1 or 2 videos in the last 6 months.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they probably don't have viral hits that you've been a part of.
Well, that's true. I got very, very fortunate pretty early on.
Mm-hmm. So I know initially the first video, what was it, procrastination? Song?
Yes. Yep.
I know that you won a competition for that one. And then how did the second one happen, the Kim Jong-un?
Well, basically, once I had gotten in with them, they're like, nope, you're part of the family now. So I guess I'm kind of on their call sheet. So, I mean, basically, whenever they have an idea that they think I would particularly fit with, I get a message like, "Hey, can you do an offensive impersonation of, a North Korean dictator by chance?"
I didn't actually think it was offensive. I thought that it actually really fit with, at least, well, I mean,
well, he's dead now.
No, not Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un.
Oh, okay.
And that's the whole point. Oh, because I didn't put that in the...
Yeah.
I gave them a playlist of some of your videos that I like as like a primer.
Ooh.
If they hadn't watched them. No, the Kim Jong-un one is... I remember watching it the first time. I was rolling on the damn ground. It's so funny.
What were you doing on a dam?
Well, I mean, the tricky thing with that is trying to do some sort of impersonation that plays a little bit on the stereotype, but also isn't too over the top. Because and not that I'm concerned about offending Kim Jong Un, but that I'm concerned about offending people who have a bit of an affectation that is, Chinese or Vietnamese or anything. Because that's really kind of all merged into one xenophobic.
Yeah. Well, you know what's a really interesting thing with any kind of comedy or improv or whatever I might be doing, it's never okay to do an Asian American dialect or accent, rather. It's always offensive. Like you could do Indian and it's okay. You can do Russian.
So you're going to demo all these for us on the podcast today?
Maybe, but no. It's never okay to do any kind of Asian American, like regardless of what it might be, or even if it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's always just don't do it.
Well, you have to realize the societal baggage with that particular exaggeration of accent. I mean, you have the unresolved internal, at least for this country, the unresolved things of Vietnam. We didn't really win that war. Things got messy. Technically, the Korea War never really ended, and Pearl Harbor. So you got all those, plus the internment.
And the internment.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's like there is a little bit of countrywide guilt with that. It's like, oh, we didn't really resolve that.
Do you think it's just because it's so soon? Because like say an Irish accent or dialect. When the Irish were first coming here and they were first immigrating, there were straight up signs that like at businesses that said no Irish allowed because there were just too many and they were all lazy and smelly and ate nothing but potatoes. But at this point, like culturally, we really, really like the Irish dialect. So is it just like it's just far enough removed from that, do you think?
I don't think that that's necessarily the best example. I think the treatments aren't on par. I think if you wanted to make a comparison with African American dialects,
sure.
I mean, could you get away with doing a Zulu accent, in a comedy club? I guess that's a. I don't know what the answer.
If I did a Zulu accent, people wouldn't know what it was.
well, that right.
Which is, I guess, part of the. But no, that's fair. It's not really equivocal.
Is it also
But I think that's
the number of like comedians and the people that are doing it on a regular basis combined with the audience that they're doing it for? Because I think that you could probably get away with doing Irish stuff, if you're up on the East Coast, because there's more of them, the percentage is higher and they'll laugh right along with you. Like, the stereotypical, they're all drunk all the time. They like that now. Like it's something that it's
a point of pride.
Yeah, it's something they've incorporated, and obviously not all of them, but I don't know very many Asian American comedians that have gone out and made it funny.
And certainly the ones who are successful tend to be, I guess this is going to almost sound offensive, but it's kind of the Hitchens thing of, the women comedians are either dykes or Jewish mothers. That's basically the only two avenues that has worked for women comedians because it's such a masculine dominated field. The Asian comedians tend to be very, second, third generation, very, very white, Asian comedians.
Yeah,
it's not a culturally based type of thing as well.
Isn't that something somebody said to Chappelle once too? Isn't that I heard it somewhere very recently where someone came up to Dave Chappelle and said, "You're not black enough for black people."
Oh yeah,
anymore.
No,
you don't fit in anywhere anymore. And it's like, well, what do you say to that?
How I don't think it's possibly more offensive to say anything to somebody like you aren't what you consider yourself to be. Like just denying their self-identity is terrible.
Yeah, it's the passive-aggressive otherness. Instead of just flat out segregating you, we're going to be nice about saying, you're not exactly what I thought my stereotypical view of you, of that type of person would be. Thank you so much.
I do wonder, though, if there's an extent to which, like, you could be a stand-up in Wisconsin and make lutefisk jokes forever. You can go ahead and play on Norwegian stereotypes and have a lot of fun with that, even despite the fact that there aren't really big Norwegian comedians either. So I wonder how much of it is a matter of when a particular individual culture decides to embrace or find humor in parts of their identity, where I would have no idea if Asians go around laughing, saying, "We totally mess up our L's and R's all the time." So yeah, go ahead. I don't see that as being a cultural thing. Whereas Irish are perfectly happy to joke about the fact that they drink too much.
So Are we basically trying to say we need an Asian comedian to come around and go, it's okay?
Maybe. I don't know.
Possibly.
It could be, the societal thing too, where it's a lot of internal, the whole idea of face is something that we don't really have here anymore. The whole, if there was an issue that you had with somebody in China, you do it privately. You help them save face.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Go through that, and it's not, we have that to some degree here, but not as much, I think, as it necessarily used to be, and certainly not like what they have over there. So, making fun of that, especially in front of everyone, and obviously, as people live here longer, that diminishes, generations out. You don't have that same impact, 5 generations after living here. So maybe
I suppose that's true.
They're a little more okay with, the longer you're here, you kind of incorporate that sort of, this is what everybody does. They just make fun of each other, they're just aloof and,
So it's really just a matter of how insular the community happens to be. Because I suppose you don't see, you could, I suppose, but you don't see many jokes about Hasidic Jews either.
No.
You'll see plenty of jokes about stereotypical New York Jews, the very integrated Jews, and that's type of thing. But basically, when there's you don't see jokes about a particular group that tends to not want to, what's the word? But the whole melting pot type of thing.
Yeah, sure.
So one of the questions we got actually was, what was, I forget what's word. I think it was something. It was either, what was it like for you in high school, or what were you like in high school? Yes, your younger days, high school era.
Does anybody like talking about their high school experiences?
I don't.
I don't mind it, oddly enough. Well,
actually, high school is fine. Like, earlier in high school was when it gets rough for me.
Really?
Yeah, the photos bear that out.
No, that's something that always confuses me is that, there are people that say, oh, high school's are the best years of your life. And I'm like, ooh, you got to do more with your life.
Well, I think that is a lot to do with the sort of responsibilities that you have once you come into adulthood. And when in high school, you don't have to do that because, like, typically your meals will be made for you if you live in the typical home, and you don't have responsibilities, so you're free to do all these things and experiment with all these things that you otherwise have to dedicate time for. Like, if I want to play a video game now, I have to be like, well, I can do it maybe Tuesdays when I'll be able to get some of that Kerbal Space Program in.
Right.
I think you sort of talked about it in that your video, was it Push Play?
Yeah.
And you kind of talked about how, and I think that a lot of what you were saying, where you can't really be Batman anymore, gets pushed down because you have to start doing all these other tasks and all this other stuff. But kind of looping back to what we first started at, you said at the beginning where you're really enjoying not making videos now. Are you enjoying being Bruce Wayne again instead of being Batman?
I don't know. That's tricky. Well, first off, I guess my high school experience was a bit different because we had a very long, protracted death in the family, and various other basically meant I had to try and be a very responsible type of person. I think honestly that probably one of the least carefree times of my life. But I don't know. I think as you grow up, it's weird to. It's fun to be able to find the balance of being responsible and then allowing yourself to be a kid sometimes and being able to schedule that, I guess, as you kind of insinuated, DK. But I don't know. I think that's something that's particularly tricky now is that there are, at least I guess in our generation, there's so much of a distaste for responsibility, and nobody grows up and says, well, I really am looking forward to filling out my taxes and paying my rent and all of those trappings of adulthood. Even marriage is not something that most people tend to look forward to anymore.
I did.
Well, no, there's really excitement, but I just not in the same sense that maybe our parents' generation may have.
Yeah,
that you look at adulthood as this big sense of achievement and accomplishment and responsibility and getting a lot of satisfaction out of that. Where I think now there's so much more of a crap. I'm feeling old. How do I behave a little bit younger?
I thought I actually had made it as an adult very briefly when I actually saw my name in the phone book with an actual address.
You've had a landline?
I had a landline.
I've never had a landline.
Yeah, I was in the phone book, and
perhaps more notably, what the phone book?
And not to take this out of not to take this out of context, I was in the phone book above my mom.
That's the
Wow.
When did you have a landline?
Probably when I came back here my junior year of college to finish up my undergrad.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyway.
The answer would also be like 1982 to.
No, that's weird to think. I don't think I've even realized that. I've never actually had a landline in my name.
Never lived in dorms?
Nope. Nope. I've only ever had cell phones.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah. There will be people who never have a landline.
Like, the idea of a phone book is almost ludicrous to some
It really is. Like, the phone book at this point is like,
Oh, yeah.
an older day form of like Google search. Like,
Yeah.
and even now, like you can't figure out someone whose phone number that you don't know that say you want to be able to call them. Like, it's not easy to be able to.
Yeah.
It used to be really easy. If you wanted to call some girl in high school that you really liked and you knew her parents' name, then you had her phone number.
Stalking was a lot more convenient.
Well, not only that, but they're often school
that?
directories, too. Directories, too. That made everything so much easier.
Yeah, and now
Yeah.
it's so hard to stalk people. It's just silly. I mean,
If you do it wrong.
We really just sound like
Well, isn't that a bad thing, though? Because you still... One of the things that I find really wonderful about the internet is that I hate phones. It's funny that now, because I have not a landline, but a phone that goes down to the front desk in my building, and whenever there's a delivery or whatever, they'll give me a ring, and I find the whole idea of a phone ringing, how freaking rude is that? You're interrupting me, not on my terms. I did not say that it was okay. I may be in the middle of doing something important, and you start blaring this klaxon.
right?
Like the whole idea of it just seems so foreign to me now, whereas now so much communication is asynchronous that, you can send me a message and I can reply immediately. I can reply after 5 minutes. I can reply tomorrow when it's easier. And that now, I think that's, I hate phone calls. I would much rather send me a text, or message me on something. And, maybe that's just me. Maybe I just hate people, but.
No, I agree with you. Like, I used to have this argument with my mother, actually, where because I wouldn't always pick up the phone when she'd call me, because I'm like, no, you don't understand. My phone is for me to get a hold of you wherever I am, not for you to get a hold of me wherever I am. It's different.
See, it's funny. You get into that conversation with your mom about you not talking to her. I get into the conversation with my mom when I don't text her. Or if I do text her, she doesn't like the whole monosyllabic, yes, I'm fine, that sort of thing, because she wants small talk through text messaging. And I figure text messaging is the distillation of conversation. There's no time for small talk. I mean, unless you're on iMessage, then you can small talk your heart away. But she doesn't understand that. So then I get a 6-page text going out of order because of my lovely network. Right. And it's just trying to figure out what this Rubik's Cube of a conversation is trying to be. And I'm just like, Mom, I will call you later. You know
what has always bothered me about text? Like, the most useless text message that you can ever get is just the letter K. I hate it. I will presume that you send that to me all the time, Paul. Like, this is why he's laughing right now. Like, I will presume that you have received my text. I do not need verification.
Okay.
Damn it.
I especially like doing it to people that I know are overseas.
That wasn't always true.
Fair enough.
It wasn't always the case. So people may have just gotten into the, received when it wasn't certain that it was received.
Well, it just seems even okay is fine. You know what I dislike even more? And this is just me being old. I don't know. KK.
1K shy for your liking?
Well, no, as opposed to okay, because it's a thing from like the internet and kind of a result of I think it's almost a result of MMOs actually.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you also hate KEKE as a response?
I don't think I've ever gotten that.
Because that's KK as well.
Yeah, no, I don't like that one. I wouldn't like that one if I got it. I don't really get that in text.
You will.
You're gonna now.
Yep.
I wouldn't have a problem with the way that it's formatted. For me, it's just a matter of the ambiguity of that expression. So I could there are plenty of contexts where someone saying "okay" would frustrate me.
Yeah. Although I will say that sometimes I do use K like as a
initial
passive attack. Well, no, like if someone says something and they're like,
I'm so sorry for ruining your life.
and I'll just be like, K, period, send.
It's the period that really
it's right. The period is what really drives it home, because it's not I'm lazy. I took the time to punctuate.
I am only sending you one letter.
Yep. This is the end of the sentence. There will be no more conversation following. Period.
So I guess I do that, but I mean, like, yes, I said doo-doo.
So I think what we're kind of talking about is a constant reduction of things that we've done. So we don't want to take a long-term phone call, so we turn it to the shorter phone calls on the cell. I mean, how many times have you said, I'm going into a tunnel, when you just wanted to be done with a conversation? You know what I mean? Or I'm going into a bad coverage area. So that's reduced down. And now we've reduced it to text messages. And then we've reduced text messages even further.
To one letter.
Right. So, and I was like kind of thinking about this, especially because you...
So wait, if that's your thing, are emojis going to be an issue for you?
No, I actually really like emojis.
Okay.
But they've also said that people that use emojis, they have lower like reading comprehension.
Ooh, that's lies.
Ongoing. No, like if they're using them growing up, not afterwards.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. Oh, interesting.
I can't detect. I can't understand a modest proposal because there aren't sarcasm smileys. I would disagree, though, that it's just brevity. I don't think that we're necessarily drifting to text because it's shorter, that we want to try and condense. I think it is just a matter of we want to be able to interact on our own time, at our own schedule. I mean, that's to me, I would be perfectly happy to exchange 1,500 word emails back and forth with someone, but I would hate to have a phone conversation.
But do you do that anymore? Do you have those long emails? Because I noticed that I don't anymore. I used to, and as time has gone on, they become 4 paragraphs, and then they're down to 2, and then it's a sentence, and then it's a text message.
I think the concision of language isn't a bad thing. I mean, for someone who rambles ridiculously on and on and on, I like the idea. I'm hesitant to use it most times, but I like the idea of Twitter where it forces you in 140 characters to get your thought across clearly and in a way that either, for me, given that I like things to be properly punctuated, if things have to be sacrificed because of it, then I will make certain concessions for that. But it's as you mentioned before with brevity. I don't think it's a bad thing for that to be happening. I mean, if we actually got to the point of what we were trying to say quicker, then we might actually be able to move on a little bit more.
Do we risk ambiguity, though, in a 1984 sort of way?
Possibly. I mean, I come from a deaf household, and with the way you translate that language in writing, so much of the garbage of English is left out. That articles, that sort of thing. So there's some poetic license, especially with my brother and my father when I'm reading things that they're sending me. But there's a bit of a poeticness to it, as long as you have the kind of common understanding. So I guess if you don't know the person, then yeah, ambiguity can come up, but it's just another opportunity for you, if you're of that type, to get to know that person, if you're willing to be that brave.
Fair enough.
I think it's just another way to insert more stuff into the day. Whereas before you would sit down and take a half an hour to write that email, you may be able to transmit those same thoughts throughout the day and just keep jam-packing more and more and more and more into it. And at some point, I think we're going to... Either evolution is happening, which I think that they have shown scientifically that we are able to... That we're bombarded with more and more, and the brain is starting to evolve to handle that. But are we going to hit a point where, is this why we have headaches and people with lots of mental issues?
That's just your brain wanting a firmware update.
Right. But, a lot of the quote, undefinables, it's not a scientific thing. You can't prove to someone that you have a headache or some particular mental issues. Is that a direct result of trying to pack and pack and pack and pack and pack rather than taking a siesta at lunch or, a lunch in China, lunch in places when I was there was 2 hours. So you would go home, eat with the family. Wow. You'd come back and everything was closed. In like governmental positions, they were just closed from, it was like 11 to 1. Huh. So you can go home, you can eat with your family, you can take a nap, you can come back to work, and sure they work an hour later in the day, but I think, they take out that time to have a break in a way. And like yesterday I was walking in a store and I turned down this aisle and there were 3 other people in the aisle. All 3 other people were on their cell phone. So they couldn't even stop to do that, and I look like a jerk because I'm wearing my headphones, but I just can't stand screaming children. So it's really just, pretending the world doesn't exist outside of that. But, you continue to jam these things together that haven't been like that, even as close back as one generation. Like your parents didn't do this.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. I think though I've heard that our, I guess, complaint a lot that there are so many people that are just so engrossed in technology that they're not experiencing a life around them. But I think there's an inherent implication that what they are doing on their phones must be less valuable than what is around them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that I don't know. There are an awful lot of cases where I would agree, but I don't know that it's necessarily true in all of them. And I certainly would hope that it becomes less and less true. That, if we were to imagine some sort of snow crash world, that there would be more valuable things that you could be doing on a computer in, a given hour in your apartment or whatever than you could do reasonably in the real world, and that it could be, just as fulfilling to you in that way. And I don't know if that's necessarily true yet. I don't know if it's ever necessarily going to be true, but I don't know that we should necessarily write it off as inherently, there's a problem with not getting out into nature.
Yeah.
If it's not fulfilling to you.
I kind of see it both ways, actually. Like at the same time as being closer together and being more interconnected than we ever have been, we're also not at the same time. And for me, the jury's still out on that, whether or not that is a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, that's been the case since the popularity of the internet exploded in the mid 90s. I mean, that's as soon as that came out, it's like it's bringing everybody together, but it's also pushing everybody further apart. It's the yin yang of it. So, I mean, we're 20 plus years after that, or just about 20 years. Don't we have enough evidence by now to see that that's happened?
I don't know.
I don't even know if that's necessarily true, though. I mean, when we say that we've pushed people further apart, what metric are we using? I would. Given the plethora of information, I'm sure that I could find out more about any one of you than I would know about my aunt.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I guess it is, you've got to quantify how it is that you are determining that closeness, and if the internet is pushing people apart, in what way is that I can find out much more about a potential soulmate just based on the fact that we're now compelled to share so much more because of the avenues available to us than I may have been able to prior to the internet.
And I think it also comes down to the quality, or what quality you put into that type of information. Is simply reading something on a screen more valuable than hearing it in a face-to-face conversation in a diner somewhere, or vice versa?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess you'd have to come up with some sort of ratio that I can glean such amount of information about someone by hearing their inflection as they say one sentence as I can from reading 50 of their tweets. There's got to be some sort of relationship between those things.
And I'm sure people at eHarmony are going, "We've got this figured out already, guys. Come on."
It's a slow burn, though, too. In a way, like it's slowly. When I was a kid, my parents and we knew the people that lived around us, and since I've moved to Wisconsin, I really haven't. Like even in the apartment building that I live in now, I don't know the other people that share the same floor, and there's only 3 other doors, and I don't know that I want to know them in a way. Without having any information, I just say this isn't worth it.
I think that's an inherent nature of apartment complexes, because you don't necessarily share backyards, you don't share front yards, you don't necessarily walk out to the front of the building to go get your mail. That
To be fair, if Paul had a front or backyard, I don't know that he'd be in it.
If I had a backyard, it would have a lake in it. That's all I'm saying. So I want to kind of, I sparked that whole line brought it back to that because I had a question. Do you think that when we hammer those things together and we compress our time, as two YouTubers that both have that kind of, in a way, sort of like a jump cut, but not necessarily, all the videos, do you think that allows them to seem like they're shorter? Because I'll watch like a 5-minute video in a jump cut style and it doesn't seem like 5 minutes. But if I watch just a regular 5-minute video, at like minute 4, I'm like, oh, come on. Like, you start checking the time on it. Does it kind of lend it to that sort of popularity? And is there a place on the internet for the long-term form, like you were talking about earlier?
If I start on this, I'm going to ramble for a while. So DK, you want to
go for it? We've got so much time.
Well, okay. So first off, yeah, absolutely. The jump cuts aren't there because I necessarily need them. It makes it easier. I can be a little bit lazier with not having to. I can know half of what I'm going to say and record that and then figure out the next half. But it's not for that reason. I have a side vlog channel where I do single take ramblings and thinkings with pauses and awkwardness, and they are long and they're not intended to attract much of an audience. The jump cuts are really a way of, you have to make sure that there's a lot of energy throughout the entirety of the video because you're constantly fighting with people's desire to click away. The minute that somebody feels bored, they're going to be tempted to look at something else, and you've lost them. And so there's kind of everything has to be almost a movie trailer, and so you're fighting with that as being sort of this is how you get people to watch all of your stuff, and the desire of, this is what I would like my content to actually be, so I think it's tricky with kind of trying to balance that. Of course, there are a lot of people that use jump cuts simply because they can't get through the paragraph of what it is that they wanted to say, and that's perfectly fine. With regard to long form stuff, I think it's really, really tricky, and I think that right now it means that longer form content, the people are much more selective with what longer form content they will watch, and so the barrier to entry is much, much, much higher. I've started going through and watching the Oscar nominated movies, and I'm going through and it occurs to me, like, some of these are 90 minutes long. That's not a movie. That's a 2-part TV drama. That's not an actual movie. But that now, you can't make Once Upon a Time in America. You can't do it. Maybe, and maybe there could be, one or two that would ever get out there and be successful these days, but everything has to be very, very compressed. And that's one case where I think that trend toward concision is worrisome. Now, it's not to say that you couldn't take, a long spaghetti Western and condense it, because there's an awful lot that I think most of the audience is not going to get a ton out of. And you could probably compress it into something that both hold their attention and showcase 90% of what you're trying to get across. But we also get to a point where we really lose something by trying to present something that is kind of a much more in-depth story in a really short amount of time.
But with 90 minutes not being a movie, I mean, there's the tried and true things of romantic comedies can't be much more than 90 minutes because why bother? And but I mean, certain movies.
Well, they tried that with Funny People, and it really didn't work.
I mean, doesn't it kind of come down to like subject matter? Some subject matters and some stories don't need to be 3 hours plus. I mean, wherever you stand on The Hobbit, those maybe it needs 2 movies, maybe it needs 3, maybe it needs 1, who knows, whatever. But like I know with Gravity, for instance, that's only 90 minutes, and I was impressed with actually how tight that movie was in its 90 minutes, because I mean, if it's stretched on for 2 hours, then I would feel that it would get a little hammy. I mean, I think the only little thing that they probably could have thrown in there, they ended up doing a little after anyway. They actually filmed the other side of the conversation she had with the Russian down on the ground. So that would have been about the only thing, because that's about the only other voice in the movie aside from Mission Control. So I mean,
that's a very interesting counterexample as well, because that one had so many long takes.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one is 17 minutes. They've got a bunch of other just 10-minute takes and stuff in there. They got away with a lot. But I think that's also, if they had tried to make a 2-hour movie, it would have come back to bite them.
Yeah,
well, Karan's good at doing those long takes, but making them visually interesting, so you're not sitting there going, oh gosh, when are they going to cut away? It's not like, it's not like forcing a person who's grown up watching basically modern movies and forcing them to watch Rope. I mean, here's a movie made of 10-minute long takes, have fun, and you see by minute 2 of the first scene, they're like, when's it going to cut? When's something going to explode?
Yeah, Michael Bay isn't making 3-hour epics.
Wait till Bad Boys 3.
Oh my God.
But that's one of the things. I saw The Wolf of Wall Street last night, and to me, that's one where there aren't particularly long takes, and everything is very hyped up. But I certainly felt, and a lot of people critiqued, that after the first hour, end it. Just can we be done?
Well, that's been Scorsese's problem since the last few movies he's made, where it's like, really, dude, do we need an extra 45 minutes on this? And I love Hugo, but seriously, do I need the history of cinema documentary in the middle of this kid's movie?
I am totally fine with that sort of thing if that's what you're going for.
Well,
for
right.
me, The Wolf of Wall Street, it's like you're not. It's a continuity nightmare. It's not even got. You're not even delving into the actual characterization of the plot or morality or anything. It's just 3 hours of crappy jokes about capitalism and badly done. I mean, if you took the time to stitch it together, Goodfellas has slow moments. It has moments where you look at your wrist.
Yeah.
But it's such a well-crafted, and honestly, The Godfather for me as well. There's when he goes over to Sicily, I get a little antsy.
Yeah.
But it's such a well-constructed piece that I think, the audience is more willing to give you license to get away with that sort of thing.
Yeah, if you earn the story and visual detours, then we'll forgive a lot of things. But if it just feels tacked on because a producer wanted a particular thing in a movie, then you're just like, really? Why is there a polar bear now?
Right.
Even with The Wolf of Wall Street, though, it felt like they went 0 to 60 in 10 minutes, and then they just got to a speed and they just kept it. Mm-hmm. Drive. And it's fun to drive fast, and I get what they were, I think that they were kind of hammering on you thought that it could be excessive. We're going to show you an excessive amount of excessive to really just hammer the point home as to what these guys do over there. And it didn't feel to me like that 3 hours was badly spent, and it didn't feel like 3 hours when I was done afterwards. Like The Hobbit, but I don't like any movie that's less than 2 hours generally. Mm-hmm. Gravity is an exception. I don't know. I don't think you have enough time to tell a full, complete story in 90 minutes.
Gravity is one of those few movies that I've seen where I have watched it and been like, well, that's wrong. That's not possible, but still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because, and afterwards I looked up things, and the writer, who I don't remember who the writer was.
It was Coran.
Coran and his son.
There you go. His son or his brother. Yeah.
Where they straight up said, yes, we know that, these bodies, these satellites aren't close enough in proximity to each other, but if we didn't do that, then we wouldn't be able to have a movie.
Yeah. They're actually really big space fanatics.
Yeah. Yeah.
They did that one, out of love, in a way.
And I think that's another one where it's a matter of, if you do well enough in some areas, we're willing to forgive a lot in others. The character plot of Gravity was awful, and Sandra Bullock didn't have enough to pull it off either. But it was such a visually compelling movie that you're like, I don't care. Like, I don't, you could cast Miley Cyrus in that role. I'd still watch it. I don't care.
I wouldn't go that far necessarily, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
She'd start licking the satellite.
It kind of felt
like a satellite.
Oh my God. It felt to me like Bruce Willis, though, in The Sixth Sense, in a way. Like Gravity always had that feel.
Ghost-like?
What?
No, like it kind of had that, like, just enough of a disconnect that maybe something's wrong, but not enough that you can be absolutely sure of the solution to the end of the movie 10 minutes in.
Oh, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's got that twist, and it's got...
I was pretty sure that she was going to get back. mean, that doesn't make it bad. But
No, but
if you watch Lincoln, you know how it's going to end.
But like the whole reasoning, like everything that happened, because I kind of sat back in the theater on that one and I watched other people's reactions when I really hate spoilers, so I'm trying not to give them. But when some things happened that maybe were unexpected in that movie.
Like what?
The thing with the thing?
All right, spoilers.
The revisitation.
It's been out for a long time.
When George Clooney comes back.
He went away?
People in the audience acted surprised. I could see a reaction where they were shocked that happened.
Really?
For a second, I was really, really mad because I was like, no. Oh, okay, I get it.
But they got you. They got you in the same way that M. Night Shyamalan got you.
Oh, and Sixth Sense. I forget that he directed Sixth Sense because I'm so used to not liking M. Night Shyamalan movies now.
He peaked early.
He really did.
He peaked after Unbreakable.
And I mean, if you look at some of his other movies, what's the one with the trees?
The Happening.
Yeah, that one's not. If you look at it from a eco standpoint, it makes a little more sense.
A little bit more sense, but that's just Shyamalan going, I've got an R rating. Look at the creepy stuff I can do. I'm gonna run over somebody with a lawnmower.
But I mean, that guy's Unbreakable was amazing too.
I like Unbreakable actually. Well, Unbreakable is kind of a fun examination of sort of the comic book hero mythos.
Before the comic book
Before the
movies blew up.
resurgence, yeah.
That's a good point, actually. I don't think the movie would work now.
I remember I saw that, I think, opening weekend. It opened Thanksgiving. And my older brother and I, we went to the movie after Thanksgiving because you could only go to the movie theater, not shopping, after Thanksgiving. And
not stay around with your
remember we're watching that and we're just sitting there going through the movie, and it ends and we're just like, this is the best comic book movie ever. We need to spread this around. We need to get our soap boxes and our milk crates and go, come on, you have to see this movie. This is how it was done, because up until that point we had, kind of wishy-washy representations. I mean, the Burton Batmans, the Flash television show, the Captain America movie with the rubber ears, and the Roger Corman Fantastic Four. I mean, we had weird representations.
Are you leaving Donner's Superman out of there on purpose? Because it was good enough?
Quite honestly, yes.
I agree with you.
Only because you don't go, for me anyway, you don't go into that movie going, oh, it's a comic book movie. It's not a superhero movie. It's a action adventure movie with a guy who just happens to be in loud tights. And
an alien in loud tights. Spoilers.
How dare you?
It was really interesting though to go to movies. I went to a double feature the other day, and I watched Walter Mitty and Wolf of Wall Street. And
wow,
it was interesting to have the experience coming out of the Wolf of Wall Street and nobody saying the book was better. Even with Walter Mitty, people said, well, I like the short story better. And, some people just walked out like maybe they didn't have an idea that there was a short story.
Or that it was a remake.
I actually think that they did a really good job with it. I don't know.
With Walter Mitty?
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I thought it was
Walter Mitty?
I haven't seen it yet.
Did that get nominated for anything? I haven't actually looked at the
I think it may have been for a minor thing.
Yeah, visual or something.
Yeah.
It was really visually amazing.
Damn well better if you gotten some sort of visual effect, or not necessarily effect, because it was all like they went to 40 locations or some crap.
Yeah, 30. I think didn't the ad say 34 locations, 72 hours in freezing water, and 1.2 million feet of film or something.
Yeah.
If you're advertising that, does that mean that your movie is lacking something? Or are you trying to raise the issue that we did everything a movie had and this?
Possibly, but I mean, if you are touting the technical achievements over your story achievements...
Yeah, but it's a remake, so I think most people know the story.
How many people know it's a remake, though?
I mean, I know it's a remake.
Because you read books.
Nerd
alert! Did any of you guys see Her?
I haven't yet. I really want to.
That is because that is pretty much a podcast in and of itself.
Really? Okay, cool. We'll keep that in mind.
It raises a lot of very, very interesting cultural questions.
Maybe the three of us should go see it together.
I would recommend that. Honestly, I would recommend everyone go see it.
Go see Her.
Times.
Really? I'll go see her. What?
Actually, that is one thing that frustrates me. It's like I'm trying to Google reviews and stuff. I'm like, there's no way. Not with a title like that.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Her reviews. What?
Her cinematography. No, that's
That's funny. Wow.
Her story.
Yeah.
I mean, having not seen it, I will say that I would probably fall in love with Scarlett Johansson's voice too.
Among other things.
No, just her voice is good enough.
Only because you know what she looks like.
She's got a good voice though.
no.
There was, yeah.
I mean, knowing what she looks like doesn't like detract from her voice.
No, but if you
I'm not saying this.
if you hear a sexy voice and then you meet,
Garrison Keillor.
I was thinking like Mrs. Roper is the one that's like behind it. And for any of the kids, go look up Three's Company. We have no idea who Mrs. Roper is, but those house dresses and just that awful hair. But that sexy voice. If you have that disconnect, are you disappointed on the backside?
I mean, I'd probably just turn the lights off.
And Mrs. Roper would appreciate that because all she wanted to do was get laid.
So we're talking about butter voices now?
But butter voices. Although I've definitely seen that too, where someone's very attractive, but their voice is just terrible.
Yeah, please don't make that a word either.
How you doing?
Not you.
Well, I'm next to Jersey. I have to deal with that a lot.
Oh man! All right, well, so we're at about an hour, and that's what we usually like to keep these at. It went by fast. Maybe we'll have to have a Kevin Gisi returns.
Yeah, I think so. We never fully got to explore the YouTube thing, so yeah.
Well, which is fine. I mean, we don't need to. I mean, we're having YouTubers as guests, but we don't necessarily need to just talk about YouTube.
Well, it's an area of expertise. It's like having Neil deGrasse Tyson in and talking about Tootsie Rolls
I would love to talk to Neil deGrasse Tyson about Tootsie Rolls.
You've got
for an hour.
you've got DK. You don't need my expertise.
No, we need your expertise. You're more expertise than me, crepes. All right. Well, anyway, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and thank you very much for everyone who's listening, who made it this far.
Okay.
Bye-bye. The Declarable Podcast is currently looking for sponsors. If you are a person or business or a fish or a goat who would like to sponsor the podcast, please send an email to declarations@gmail.com and we will get everything set up and everything will be happy.